Call meeting to order. Pledge of Allegiance, Councilmember Prine. Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey,
Here.
Councilmember White, Councilmember Thompson. Here. Councilmember Davidson.
Here.
Councilmember Prine.
Here.
Councilmember Lawson.
Here.
Councilmember Richardson.
Here.
Councilmember McCallum.
Here.
Councilmember Johnson.
Here.
We have a quorum. D, personal appearances. We have none. Presentations, 1, Arbor Day proclamation. Alex. He's even got his shirt on.
Is this live? It is. Okay.
Yeah.
There they are. I'll have to get me one of them.
Oh, I've got multiple joining me. Good. I'm not up here by myself. All right. All right. I have a proclamation here for Arbor Day. Whereas in 1892, J. Sterling Morton first proposed that a special commemorative day be officially set aside for the planting of and acknowledgement of trees. And whereas this holiday, designated as Arbor Day, is now observed throughout the nation and the world. And whereas trees can reduce erosion of our precious topsoil by wind and water, cut heating and cooling costs, moderate the temperature, clean the air, produce life-giving oxygen, and provide habitat for wildlife. And whereas trees are a renewable resource, giving us paper, wood for our homes, fuel for our fires, and countless other wood products. And whereas trees in our city increase property values, enhance the economic vitality of business areas, and beautify our community. And whereas trees, wherever they are planted, are a source of joy and spiritual renewal. And whereas on April 25th, 2026, the city of Belton will celebrate Arbor Day and pay special attention to the wonderful treasure that our trees represent and dedicate themselves to the continued health of our state's urban and rural forests. Now, therefore, Norman K. Larkey Sr., Mayor of the city of Belton, Missouri, does hereby proclaim April 25th, 2026 to be Arbor Day and the month of April 2026 to be Arbor Month in the city of Belton. We urge all citizens to become more aware of the importance of trees to their well-being, to participate in tree planting programs that ensure a green Belton for decades to come, and to plant, nurture, and protect and wisely use Belton's great treasure of trees. In witness whereof, Norman K. Larkey, Sr., Mayor of the city of Belton, Missouri, has hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed at Belton, Missouri on this 14th day of April 2026. I have with me, well, actually, why don't you guys go ahead and introduce yourself?
I'm Tyler Farrow, the Forestry Council President.
Nick Althauser, Park Superintendent.
And we have the parks in conjoined with the what is the title again?
Urban Forestry Council.
Urban Forestry Council will have a Arbor Day celebration coming up on April 25th to not only celebrate Arbor Day, but also remember one of our fallen Urban Forestry former members. So just thought that was an important thing to share with everybody. And if there's anything else either of you would like to add? Speech?
I'll just say it starts at 9 a.m. April 25th at Memorial Station. Thank you.
All right, thank you, guys. Oh. Hey, wait, Nick. Go back, picture, yeah. Oh, here.
Thank you.
All right, item 2, National Public Safety Telecommunications Week proclamation.
Your turn.
Come up here.
I can just hide in the back.
Yeah, you ain't hiding nowhere.
You guys come on.
All right. I have a proclamation for National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week. Say that 5 times fast. Whereas emergencies that require police, fire, or emergency medical services can occur at any time, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from the citizens who contact the City of Belton 911 Emergency Communications Center. And whereas public safety communications officers, 911 dispatchers, are the first and most critical contact our citizens have with emergency services, they are first responders in the truest sense. And whereas public safety telecommunicators are the single vital link for our police officers, firefighters, and paramedics by monitoring their activities by radio, providing them information, and ensuring their safety. And whereas public safety telecommunicators of the Belton Police Department have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients. And whereas each public safety telecommunicator has exhibited compassion, understanding, and professionalism during the performance of their job in the past year, now therefore, Norman K. Larkey Sr., Mayor of the City of Belton, Missouri, does hereby proclaim the week of April 12th through the 18th, 2026 to be National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in the City of Belton in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our city and citizens safe. In witness whereof, Norman K. Larkey Sr., Mayor of the City of Belton, Missouri, has hereunto set his hand and caused the seal of the city to be affixed at Belton, Missouri, this 14th day of April, 2026. Anyone have anything to add?
They all like to talk on the radio, so they
Would they like to introduce themselves?
Sure.
My name is Caleb.
Hi, my name is Lily. Kenzie. Tabitha.
Thank you all.
thank you.
Thank you. Oh, that was sweet.
Leave it on.
Item F, unfinished business. 1, motion approving final reading of Bill 2026-10.
An ordinance establishing temporary short-term rental regulations for the 2026 FIFA World Cup special event period.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Lawson,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Richardson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Yes.
Pryan,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Mayor Larky,
Aye.
Thompson.
Yes.
Motion passes. 2, motion approving final reading of Bill 2026-11.
An ordinance approving a final plat for Pyramid Roofing, a two-lot subdivision on 1.53 more or less acres located at 17230 and 17232 Belray Place and 17229 South Outer Road in the city of Belton, Missouri.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call.
Councilmember Pryan,
Aye.
Davidson,
Yes.
Thompson,
Yes.
Johnson,
Aye.
McCallum,
Aye.
Lawson,
Aye.
Mayor Larky,
Aye.
Richardson.
Aye.
Motion passes. G, new business. 1, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2026-12.
An ordinance approving a special use permit to allow a vehicle and equipment sales light land use in the C2 zoning district at 1016 North Scott Avenue, Unit E.
Present.
Second.
A motion and a second. You're up.
Yep, thank you, Mayor and Council. Before this evening is a special use permit request to allow a vehicle and equipment sales light use in a C2 zoning district at 1016 North Scott Avenue, Unit E. The applicant, G-Town Auto Body, has operated a vehicle repair use on this site for several years and would like the opportunity to provide vehicles for lease and for sale at their location as an additional service. Due to the size of the site, vehicle sales are intended to be a minor or accessory component to the current business. The applicant is also proposing to construct a 450 square foot 2-bay workshop at the southwest corner of the property that would accommodate 2 additional service bays for vehicle repair. The west bays on the existing building are difficult to access without trespassing on the neighboring property. And due to that, the neighboring property recently installed a fence to prevent that. As part of the special use permit request, the applicant is requesting a reduction in the setback from 10 feet to 5 feet for the new building to maintain an adequate drive aisle width for ingress and egress through the site. And also allow the building to be all metal due to the limited visibility from the street, as this is a second-tier lot with no direct street access. Incremental improvements required include paving any unpaved parking and outdoor storage areas, enclosing the existing dumpster, as well as restriping the parking lot. Staff proposes approval of a 1-year special use permit that allows the permit to be approved permanently if all improvements are completed within that 1-year time frame. If not, the applicant must go back through the special use permit process to request a renewal. The Planning Commission held a public hearing on March 17th, at which no one spoke in favor or in opposition to the request. The commission recommended unanimous approval of the request, and staff also recommends approval with the 6 conditions in the ordinance. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Go ahead.
I know that because we've done the new kind of overlay on Scott, are we having different interests coming to look at that part of our town?
We have had more application meetings over the past year with development interest, a lot of interest in reinvestment in some buildings that have been vacant or underutilized, but also some interest in new development on some vacant land that's on the corridor.
That are not automotive related?
Yes, we have had some non-automotive uses that have expressed interest in the
Okay.
corridor.
Go ahead.
Remind me if this, because I know we talked about this previously, but if this owner decided to make selling vehicles a major part of the component instead of the planned minor at this time, what would stop them from doing that?
They're limited on the space to be able to do that. That's the main purpose that would stop them. They also don't have the visibility that typically if you're a car sales, you want to be right on the main road. So they're limited by access and visibility. If they were, I mean, this isn't specifically for any accessory use, that's just kind of their purpose. I mean, if at some point they went basically all in on the auto sales and stopped doing the repair, they could do that. However, they really wouldn't be able to utilize the site and the buildings as they're currently set up. So I would say if they're successful with the car business, they would likely look elsewhere to expand.
And their current business model is primarily repairing vehicles, and the thought was that they might be able to sell a few on the side as well because of that.
Yeah, and I think they also occasionally acquire vehicles that they then repair and then sell. So that's the other reason for this, is it's not specifically going out and just seeking used vehicles that they're gonna turn around and sell. I think they buy vehicles, fix them up, and then sell them.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 2, a public hearing regarding the proposed 29th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan for the redevelopment project 2026-01 pursuant to RSMO Section 353.110.32, subparagraph 2.
Present.
Second.
You don't?
Oh, public hearing,
Public
sorry.
hearing.
I didn't think so, but I heard it present, so.
Yeah.
Mike, you're up.
Thank you, Mayor and council members. So the item before you in this public hearing is the 29th Amendment to the Old Town Redevelopment Plan, Corporation Plan. The applicant is for 515 to 519 Main Street, is requesting project approval for $206,764. The improvements are for both interior and exterior of the existing building. The estimated property taxes with these improvements could increase from $4,400 annually to $7,100 over the 12-year abatement period. Although there will be a short-term decrease in taxes for the taxing entities, the long-term impact and the improvement to the building is positive by encouraging reinvestment in Old Town Belton. The request follows the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan policy, most recently updated, and I'll get to that here in just a second. Staff does recommend approval. The Old Town Redevelopment Corporation Board recommended approval of the project on March 18th with a vote of 3-0, with only 2 abstaining. Those 2 abstentions, if you're not familiar, the building we're talking about, this is Meet Me on Main and the Chamber of Commerce building, and also a future office tenant that'll be going in the old vintage furniture store. This is Mike Stegner's property and Stegner Holdings. As I mentioned, the policy, and I wanted to touch briefly on this. So the Old Town Board did update their policy that they use for evaluating projects and whether they fit within the Chapter 353 plan and the redevelopment plan. One of the things that they considered and heavily favored as part of adopting an updated policy was looking at the investment that commercial businesses make. So currently, we only had one category for all projects that came through, regardless of whether you were residential or commercial. So under this policy, it breaks out residential projects, which remain exactly the same for 50% of your exterior improvements, as for 50% minimum of exterior improvements for all qualified projects. Under the commercial category, the conversation really focused a lot on, for commercial buildings, there are a lot more interior improvements that need to happen. Specifically, one of the things that was brought up was if there was a business such as a restaurant that wanted to locate into one of the current buildings, they would be spending and using up the vast majority of their interior improvements just to install a commercial kitchen. And so what was decided by the Old Town Board was we would reduce from that 50% minimum of exterior to a 30% minimum exterior improvements for the overall abatement. Ultimately, there's still a split. There's still a requirement for exterior improvements to be made on the building, but it gives a little bit more leeway to some additional interior improvements that might make a business either more profitable, more stable, or have a little bit more of a ability to improve the inside. A good example also that came out of this was with one of our projects where the vast majority of their exterior improvements were replacing the plate glass windows and also adding some paint to the exterior. It wasn't a lot in terms of investment on the exterior, but because they were investing so much on the interior, the argument they made was, well, we're doing more investment in the interior that you're going to see from the street making an overall improvement to the overall building, the business, et cetera, et cetera. And so that's where the Old Town Board really kind of fell on making this adjustment. So you'll see in the proposal through Stegner Holdings on this project, you know, there is more of an interior improvement, but they do still meet the requirement of that minimum for exterior improvements to the overall building at all three addresses. Happy to answer any questions on this project.
Any questions? Go ahead.
None of the work has been started yet as requested in this project.
That's correct. And what we will be doing going forward is, once council makes approval, we typically have done improvements after the fact when projects are completed. We'll be making an initial inspection just to make sure that work hasn't started. Again, it doesn't negate necessarily if council approves the project itself. It would just, any work that's been completed before council approval, we would just remove from the overall certification process.
Go ahead.
So in the application, I want to make sure I understood what was said. It says it's going to remove all the old doors and windows. Does that mean that there are certain doors and windows that are newer and will not be removed?
So it was my understanding from the application that it was all doors and windows, were gonna be replaced in.
Yeah, just the addition of the word old there seems to suggest that there's either some that are staying or work's already begun, or there, you know, that addition of that word suggests otherwise.
Sure, and I think the board took that as all, instead of old, it's all of the existing, just because
Okay.
they are old.
Well, I just wanted to clarify that. And then, so, I haven't done the math because of this recent change. Is all of the interior work with the totality of the project, is that going to meet that 30% threshold?
It would, so where we will actually make that determination is on the cost certification based on costs that get turned in through receipts. And so, you know, that, when we look at the total abatement, at the end of the day, 30% of the project has to be exterior improvements. And so then we set the total abatement to the county based on that split.
Gotcha. So I feel like this feels,
Hold on
Like-
a minute. We need to talk about this in the bill, not the public hearing.
okay.
You're
Yep.
stretching it out a little bit.
Sure.
So,
You jumped ahead.
yeah. So any other questions about the public hearing? Hearing none, I will ask anybody in the public if they want to speak for or against this to come up to the microphone, state your name and address, and state your piece. Again, last time, I'll ask anybody in the public that wants to speak for or against this, come to the microphone, speak your name and address, state your piece. Hearing none, I move to close the public hearing. And then we'll go to item 3, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2026-13.
An ordinance approving the 29th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 515 to 519 Main Street project as redevelopment project 2026-01 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
A motion and a second. Now you can go.
This is probably going to end up more of a comment, I think, than it is a question. But it's in that our approval of any of these projects still relies heavily on your department holding up the cost review, or whatever term you use there, to make sure that it's analyzed and properly done. So they can submit on their application, you know, whatever it is may, you know, be, but ultimately, if it doesn't reach that and, you know, and it can change and adjust, because you find things when you're demoing and whatever, right? I guess my point is, so an approval doesn't give somebody carte blanche, and I feel like that's important to at least publicly point out, because an approval doesn't necessarily mean that you're, fully, you know, in agreement with what's happening, just that they can move forward based on the agreement that we have under this tax abatement program.
Correct.
Okay. It just feels a little, the perception of it feels just a little strange to approve something that may not be within the parameters of it, but it doesn't matter because we will hold them to the parameters even if council approves otherwise.
Correct. And that is the purpose of the policy, that gives staff something, you know, the Old Town Board approved it based on that policy. It gives staff direction on what to hold folks to when they, and this is, and not to veer too off course, this is very similar to a cost certification process that we do with CIDs and some of our other larger incentive tools. While Gilmore and Bell may be involved in some of those certification processes, these are typically easier for staff to handle on, you know, in-house.
It makes sense. I understand that. It's just, like I said, it feels like it has this perception, but I get it.
Go ahead.
I guess if your group is probably not the right word, but committee talks about this, in the application, you're gonna change the description, right? So, I mean, because it says that, between interior improvement not eligible for abatement of less than 25,000, capped at 50,000 total investment, so we need to change the
I think
verbiage.
if you're looking at the policy on our website right now.
No, I'm looking at the application that they
Oh,
filled
yes, and
out.
this was an old application
Yeah.
that they used to,
Yeah,
yeah.
so, I mean, if you've changed it, it would be nice, yeah.
Anybody else? Go ahead.
I believe he's asked for a double read. I know he's asked me, because he's got a business ready to go in that place. Do you know about that?
I would leave that up to council's discretion.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes.
Motion for a second read?
We have a
Second.
Motion and a second for a second reading. Any discussion on the motion for a second reading?
So I know Mike's not here, but I did talk to him, he's asked for it. And I've talked to the people that actually are going in there, and they are a small business needing to go in there because the space they're in right now is very small. And he is asking for a double read for the business going in there, so.
Is there some particular timeline on that, though? Is there, I hear that they want to do it, but is there like something that's preventing?
There's an issue with the building that they're in now. Whoever's going into this building, there's an issue with the building they're in now that they need to get out of there pretty quick, so. And Mike's got a crew waiting, I guess, to start on this immediately.
Anybody else?
I just want to, I think this is very publicly known already, but I just want to, again, clear that. So I'm pretty opposed to double readings in general. I think the purpose of having readings over multiple meetings is so that we can get public input and hear more and whatever. So this has nothing to do with this particular double reading, for the record. It just in general, that's my stance. And without particulars on why we would need an advanced timeline, I guess I don't know that I'm in favor, but just wanted to clear where I would
Well,
end up on the
you can
vote.
have your own opinion. He's asked me to ask for a double read, so
Yeah,
I
I've
did.
got-
And
I
I'm
understand.
relaying what he told me, and so that's where we're at.
Yep.
So I like helping small businesses, getting going, and for small businesses, the cost of doing stuff is a lot right now. So getting somebody in there as fast as possible, it is a plus, so. He just asked me, that's where we're at, so.
Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
No.
Can you please repeat who said yes? Thank you.
Oh, I said yes.
Oh, I had three. Who was the fourth?
Right here.
Richardson,
Two,
Lawson, Mayor,
three, 4.
Davidson? Yes? Did you say yes? Okay, I'm sorry, I missed that one. So
Motion
that's
fails.
a tie.
All right, item 4, a public hearing regarding the proposed 30th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan for redevelopment project 2026-02 pursuant to RSMO Section 353.110.3, subparagraph 2.
Hey, at this time, I need to disclose that I have a conflict of interest regarding this agenda item as it involves my personal property. I will be recusing myself from any discussion or vote on this matter. Thanks.
All right, open the public hearing. You're up.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. The item before the council this evening is the 30th Amendment to the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Corporation redevelopment plan. Applicant owner Chris Richardson and Michelle Mellinger at 704 Main Street are requesting project approval for $154,000 in improvements to the, and that should read just the exterior of the existing building, their home. Estimated property taxes within the improvements could increase from $1,800 annually to $5,500 annually over the 12-year abatement period. Although there'll be a short-term decrease in taxes for taxing entities, the long-term impact is positive by encouraging reinvestment in Old Town Belton. The requested project follows the Old Town Belton Redevelopment Policy Plan. Staff does recommend approval. The Old Town Belton Redevelopment Corporation Board recommended approval of project on April 1 with a unanimous vote. The project itself is primarily, or is entirely on the exterior. There is one portion of the project that was included that is they're gonna demolish the garage and build a new garage with concrete driveway and apron on that building at the rear of the house. And so that's the totality of the project. Happy to answer any questions on the project itself.
Anybody? Hearing none, I would ask anybody in the public to come up and speak their piece, state your name and address. Again, I'll ask anybody in the public to speak for or against to come up and state their name and address and speak their piece. Hearing seen none, I'll close the public hearing. And go to 5, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2026-14.
An ordinance approving the 30th Amendment to the Old Town Belton redevelopment plan to approve the 704 Main Street project as redevelopment project 2026-02 and to authorize tax abatement as described therein.
Present.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
Same question as previously. Has any work been done on this project prior to our approval, if we do, of this application?
No work has been done, and staff will again conduct the initial inspection once council does give its final approval.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 6, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2026-15.
An ordinance amending Chapter 2, Division 4, Procedure of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Belton, Missouri by clarifying the procedure for abstention.
Present.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
This amendment to Chapter 2 specifies that an elected official must state their abstention prior to the discussion and remove themselves from the meeting while the matter is being discussed and voted on. This amendment was recommended by legal counsel to clarify the procedure for abstention, to reduce confusion in the city council votes, and help prevent a perceived conflict of interest. The need to clarify that the elected official should leave the meeting is to avoid any doubt regarding an attempt to influence the decision of the city council.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Is there something that generated a need for this?
The current code is not explicitly clear on how to abstain from a vote, so with legal counsel, it was recommended that we clarify it.
Seems a little unnecessary to have to leave a public meeting that anyone in the public, and you could argue I am a member of the public, would be at. I understand not voting on something, and I understand, I mean, as an example, I myself have abstained previously about 2 years ago or so. I don't know what me leaving the room adds to that, if that makes sense. Like, it's a public meeting.
You're a very intimidating figure. You could influence my vote.
I think you can argue that in some instances, the appearance of a conflict is as big a deal as the actual conflict itself. And so just to remove any potential appearance for conflict and any undue influence that might arise and I'm not an attorney, so I'm not the one trying to recommend legally why you should do it this way, but I could see where it would be clarifying and at least setting a standard for our council to follow.
It is actually,
Yeah,
it is
sorry,
actually recommended.
Sorry I couldn't be there in person, but I do just want to jump in here. So the reason for leaving the room is section 105.454.13. While it is a public meeting, a elected or appointed official of the state is deemed to have violated the conflict of interest provisions of Missouri law if they participate in any matter either directly or indirectly in which he or she attempts to influence any decision. So while it is a public meeting and the public can attend, an elected official that has a potential conflict of interest staying in the room could potentially be seen to be participating indirectly in an attempt to influence a decision of the city, which would then just be a conflict of interest, and the recusal would have been pointless at that time.
Well, perception doesn't matter then, and what does is that law. So thank you for clarifying that. That was one of my questions on that.
Hold on. You were going to say something before Patrick chimed in. All right, go ahead.
Does this also apply to our committees?
Patrick, did you hear that?
I did, and now I'm thinking through which committees have statutory authority to adopt their own bylaws, which would control the conduct of their meetings. I will be honest, I'm not sure if this exact ordinance would, because it relates strictly to the city council, but I will say that my advice to any of our committees or other boards would be to follow this same process. And following this meeting, if the council decides to adopt or approve this ordinance, Andrea and I can look at those bylaws for those separate boards and determine if they need to be amended to track with this.
Yeah, I guess that's where my thought process was going, is that exactly that. If we should make sure if something's applied, it's applied equally across pun included, across the board. And that was the thought process there, just as we just so happened to have a discussion about one of the committees needing to abstain tonight. So it just so happened to be relevant. Okay, thank you for that clarification.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 7, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2026-16.
An ordinance amending Chapter 6, Business Licenses and Regulations of the Code of Ordinances to clearly define license application timelines.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second.
All city business license applicants receive 60 days to complete their application. During the 60 days, staff is in contact with the applicant to address missing information and receive status updates. This amendment to Chapter 6 is intended to prevent applications from remaining open indefinitely and establishes reasonable deadlines for completion.
Any questions? Go ahead.
So this is what we previously discussed during a work session, is that accurate?
No, I don't believe we've discussed this in a work session.
So this was, oh. So what we discussed previously was related to a different permitting process?
That was related to permitting, not licensing. This is related to licensing.
Okay, I understand.
Oh, yes.
That was in regards to rent. Is that right?
The timeline was in relation to building permit applications and how long they're open.
Okay.
So most applicants complete their license applications within 5 days. There's times, though, that people are missing information or need additional time to complete it. So our practice has been to allow them 60 days.
And this, is this in line with our other process that we previously I mean, like, just looking for consistency across our organization. Is it consistent?
I don't know that they're comparable.
There's a lot more plan reviews that typically go on with permitting, and there's typically more back and forth revisions than what would typically be required with the licensing process.
Okay.
I have one more
Go
question.
ahead.
If they don't do it within 60 days,
Yeah. So right now, our practice has been, which is why we're asking it to have a code amendment so that it's in the code. Our practice has been to withdraw the application after 60 days. They'll get a notification that their application's been withdrawn, and that usually spurs a conversation. Albeit during that 60 days, we have been communicating with them and asking them for updates of the missing information. Those are for businesses that are not located here in Belton. Typically, those businesses would get a license if they're a construction business and they need to get a permit. If the business is located in Belton, they have additional requirements they need to complete within that 60 days. And if they're not completed, then we will deny the application, which will also spur a conversation of what they're missing and how we can get that completed.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 8, motion approving the first reading of Bill 2026-17.
An ordinance approving a TIPS hotline contract with the Kansas City Metropolitan Crime Commission in the amount of $3,000.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up.
This is a annual contract that the police department brings every year for approval for a TIPS hotline contract with the Kansas City Metropolitan Crime Commission. They're the ones that operate the Crime Stoppers hotline. You hear it on the television and radio and social media. Crime Stoppers hotline is 816-474-TIPS. Again, we're looking for approval to enter this contract for $3,000. We get a lot of benefits from this when there are crimes where we believe that the member of the public can provide us with a tip, or if the member of the public thinks that they want to submit something that they believe was a crime that was committed, we can match it up with something that we've already had reported. And if it is on TIPS hotline event, we can actually get the person paid for if there's successful prosecution of the perpetrator.
Go ahead.
I saw something last year when we talked about this, that I didn't know that if the public was aware of, but this doesn't go, this is a separate group. This isn't a phone call to the police department, correct?
No,
This
it
is a
goes-
separate group. And the story I heard last year was that people were leery to use it because they thought it was a direct, and I just
Yeah.
wanted to clarify that again. It's a separate group.
Yeah, this is maintained by the Crime Commission. They have people that man that hotline around the clock, 24/7, even on the holidays. And the only thing the police department will get is a number associated with that caller to match back up with the tip. And then when we investigate that, if we find that it was useful information and help with prosecution, we alert the Crime Stoppers organization of that, and then they get that person paid out.
Well, I wanted you to explain it again so people could understand that they're really calling a separate organization and it's anonymous.
Yes, that's a very good catch. I'll add that to my speech next year.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 9, motion approving first reading of Bill 2026-18.
An ordinance approving the Belton, Missouri, excuse me, I'm going to start over. An ordinance approving the Belton, Missouri Police Department Municipal Jail 2026 housing contract for inmates of the Harrisonville, Missouri Police Department.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're still up.
We have reached the 2-year mark. These are 2-year contracts that we have with each of the agencies that we house inmates for. This time it's Harrisonville. And the 2 years gives us the opportunity to look at other rates and see if we are still within that margin of what we feel is fair. And it's $63.93 per day. That's the same fee as what it's been in the past 2 years. And so we're just renewing the contract, and they've been great partners in this with us.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 10, motion approving resolution 2026-40.
A resolution approving the purchase of a 2026 Ford ML Transit van with a Roush SWCM135 HD sewer camera system from Roush USA in the amount of $328,941.95 to replace trailer 436.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up.
If you remember, in all our budget discussions just last month, we talked about the sewer camera truck. Is actually, currently we have a trailer. It's about dead, and so in this year's budget, we have approved, or you have approved, for us to replace it. The replacement won't be a trailer anymore. Instead, it's going to be a transit van, and it'll have all the sewer equipment inside the van. And so we'll just be driving around a van. It won't be a truck pulling a trailer anymore. This is a much better camera system than we currently have. Our current camera, we just wore that thing out after 7 years. This one should last much longer, hopefully, and do a fantastic job for us. It also allows us to do some minor repairs in the sewer lines as we're doing as we're in there, and so it both will be able to televise lines and we'll be able to do some minor repairs. Happy to answer any questions that you have.
Go ahead.
Can this be used for emergency repairs at all, or do we use it for that?
We currently don't do any emergency. All our emergency repairs are done by digging down to the sewer line. This will be able to do some if it's if we can get through the collapse of the break. If it turns into an egg shape instead of a circle, we'll still be able to go through there and be able to push it back up. But if it's a complete collapse and the whole pipe's gone, we'll still have to dig those up.
Okay, so, but it sounds like in limited situations, we will be able to.
And for the most part, that's what we find is just where it's sagging or where there's just a crack, something we can still fix.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 11, motion approving resolution 2026-41.
A resolution authorizing the filing of an application with the Missouri Department of Natural Resources State Revolving Fund Program for loans under the Missouri Safe Drinking Water Law.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. You're still up.
So for, what this resolution does is allow me to submit an application for an SRF loan for the replacement of water lines. If you remember back several years ago, we had a vote that would remove the sunset off of the capital improvements tax so we could use that money to repay the loan and replace all the water lines very quickly. This will allow us, me to submit the application. This is not the agreement. This is just so I can submit the application. Missouri DNR requires our city council to approve me just to submit the application. So that's all this resolution does. Once it's approved, we'll take that resolution with the application and be able to submit it with all the other paperwork we've already submitted to them. Happy to answer questions that you have.
Any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, motion approving resolution 2026-42.
A resolution approving a grant funding agreement with Hero Fund USA, Inc. to partially fund the purchase of equipment, including a drone.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. You're up.
Good evening, Council Mayor. We're trying to leverage more grants to increase our purchasing power. We have some drones, as the police department has. Their drones are starting to age out, and they're DJI drones, which have also become problematic from a federal standpoint, and the future of those are a little limited. So we requested in the FY27 some money to purchase something a little bit different than that one. And Assistant Chief Chad Wright had found this Hero Fund grant that we were applying for, and they were gracious enough to grant us that. So this is an approval for that. So it's really not an approval for the purchase as of yet. The purchase will actually be lower than what the threshold is to bring to you, but it was going to take this to be able to make that happen. Happy to answer any questions that you might have about that.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Adjacent to it, is that something the police department could also apply for to potentially, because I know we were purchasing drones for that department as well?
I think it's a public safety grant, I think. I think that it's actually already closed, though. They do it twice a year, I think, so the application time right now is closed, but I think it's for all public safety.
All right, well, food for thought.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. 13, motion approving resolution 2026-43.
A resolution approving a software licensing agreement addendum between Image Trend, Inc. and the Belton Fire Department.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second.
Image Trend is something we've used for several years. We use it as a reporting platform. It's the software we use to do our fire and EMS reports on, as well as use it as a staffing component. They're like many softwares now. They have a lot of components you can add to it. And so we're really not trying to move away or do anything different, but if you may remember, you guys approved a new EMS billing company that we were switching to, EMS MC, which actually took place on April 1st, but as a part of that grant, they were going to start assuming our costs for that software platform. And so that required an adjustment to the agreement, which was actually a little more difficult than I figured that it might be. And so basically we had to make sure that the agreement still showed that it's our data and we're using the software, just that the billing was going to go to EMSMC and be paid by them. So this will make that right, so all that works out. In your memo, you see that I wrote 16,000 savings. That's actually a little bit lower than what we paid last year, but in reality, we were able to add a new analytics platform to it. So the true cost savings to the city of Belton was 28,000 because it's all consumed into that new contract. Happy to answer any questions you might have.
Anybody got any questions? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. H, consent agenda. One motion not available to approve recommendations noted. Any member of the council may ask for an item to be taken from the consent agenda for discussion and separate action.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Go ahead.
I'd like to pull number 2 for discussion, please.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 2, motion approving resolution 2026-44.
A resolution appointing Mark Sharp and Trevor Peary to the Municipal Park Board.
Present.
Second.
Motion and a second. I guess you're up.
Yeah, so we had a little bit different process this time with Park Board applications. There were additional questions sent out to all 12 of the applicants. Mayor Larkey shared the 12 different applications with all of us on the council, which is new, and I appreciate that. My question is, if these 2 that you're putting up for appointment answered the additional questions, and if the council could review their answers prior to voting on this?
They did respond with the questions. I don't know how we would do that. I guess we would have to pause and bring this back if we so chose that.
You would have the option to postpone this resolution for a future council meeting.
Patrick, you on still?
Sure am. This would have to be postponed. Since it's a resolution, a single reading, there would be no way to change it At this point, given kind of Councilmember Lawson's points, I would also note that if it was approved, once a person is approved to serve as a member of the park board, they can only be removed for cause. So if it's approved, they're on subject to them doing something that could get them removed.
So, okay, I would make a motion to postpone this until our next council meeting so that we have a chance to review all the application materials. And this is not an objection to the people or their application. I don't know either of them. I just would like it to be an apples to apples process that we review all the materials before we can move on the appointment suggestion.
So we have a motion to postpone.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to postpone item 2.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a suggestion that we postpone to May 12 instead of April 28, just for deadline purposes?
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we have a motion to postpone item 2 till May 12th. Any discussion on the motion to postpone? Go ahead.
I don't disagree with your thought process, and I do appreciate, after discussion last time, the mayor being very transparent with us on the applicants and all that stuff, and it was a nice, refreshing change of pace there. Not that, well, let me clarify, not that you've been anything but transparent in the past, but previous process outside of before you were even mayor, that was not normal, right? So anyways, in the interest of moving forward with our 2 missing board members for the park board, I would suggest that we look at doing that process that you're describing for the upcoming June appointments, just because that's not that far away. And I know the park board has specifically pointed out to me that they are low on people. They're, potentially concerned about having enough for a quorum. At the last park board meeting, I think there was 5 exactly members that were there. So food for thought would be, my suggestion would be we could just move forward instead of postponing this one and then do that in the, future. That would be my thought, as long as the mayor was also in agreement to that.
I'm in agreement with whatever this board wants to do. I mean, yeah, whatever you guys want to do, but do we have to postpone it to May 12th? Why can't we do it the 24th?
That's,
For what?
if you'd
for-
like to.
For his reason. I know
Understand.
that won't catch the next meeting for the park, but
It'll be a quick review by city council then.
Mr. Mayor, either
Few
date
days.
would not, it doesn't matter if you go April 28th or the first one in May.
Yeah,
They'd miss they'd miss the
meeting
April
won't
meeting and
be
they'd be
open.
back for
That
the May
makes-
meeting.
Yeah,
But
that's right, because the meeting won't be till whenever, so.
Either way.
So, anybody else on the motion to postpone till May 12th? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Nay.
Can you please do a show of hands?
Who's yay? Who's nay? Motion fails.
And to clarify, I have council members Richardson, Lawson, and Davidson as a yes to postpone.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
So now we're back to motion approving resolution 2026-044 as presented. Go ahead.
I just want to state again that my request to review all the application materials is not at all a reflection of the candidates or wanting to hamstring the park board with insufficient numbers. I think if we're making a procedural change about how we engage and involve people in the community, let's just be upfront about that. Let's give everyone a fair shake. As far as I know, I only saw 1 applicant return the additional question, or 2 applicants return the additional questions. And from what the mayor told me, 7 of the 12 did. Well, if it's now the process, a handful of them are incomplete applications, are those gonna come back up in June? Like, we have applications for a reason. We should, again, try to keep everything as consistent as possible. So that's my concern right now with how these particular applicants are being appointed, is that we kind of cobbled together some additional steps and perhaps not everyone followed them correctly.
Go ahead.
Is that normal, sending out extra questions for board members?
I've kind of been changing the way I do that, especially on, when you get a lot of applications. You know, it's kind of hard just to pick out from a one-page, you know, application. So I've kind of been changing how I try to weed out and pick who I want to present to you guys.
Were there 4 extra questions?
Yes.
And how do you come up with the 4 extra questions? Is there a certain thing that you're looking at, or?
No, just something I came up with on my own. So,
Okay.
go ahead.
Maybe, just thinking through it, as someone myself who has been through an application process to join a board, which happens to be this particular board, and what I mean is the council, I will say that I took it upon myself to seek out and talk to all of those that were currently sitting on the council at the time and do all those things, but not having that, I guess where I'm going with this is I can totally see where just an application filled out with, you know, John Smith's name on it and his email address, and, you know, how do you pick John Smith over somebody else? I guess I like the idea of there being some engagement with us as we go through that process. That's just kind of how my thought process is there. I'm not, you know, I don't know the specifics behind the questions being asked because that's the mayor's prerogative, but just throwing that out there.
Go ahead.
On the questions, I don't even know what the 4 questions were, and how did you come up with it? Was it a group effort, or was it yourself?
Myself. So I just, you know, did a little searching and try to find some good questions that fit our situation, and that's what I came up with. I will email the questions to all of you too, when I get back tomorrow. Go ahead. Are you done?
Are we gonna do this on other boards that we got multiple applications on?
Yeah, if we get multiple applications.
Ask
we
extra
usually don't
questions.
get multiple applications on any other board, so.
Okay.
Anybody else? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
No?
No.
Motion passes.
And that was council members Davidson, Lawson, and Richardson, correct?
Yeah.
Got it.
Okay, thank you.
Item I, reports and information. I don't need to do that. Communication from City Council. Councilmember Johnson.
Wanted to thank everybody who came out and voted in the election last week. Also went to the ribbon cutting for the new Olive Garden, and that was very nice and well done, and the Olive Garden looks great. Wanted to advise that the coalition, in conjunction with the Arts Commission, is having a Arts Walk Sip and Stroll May the 2nd. I think it's from 3 to 6. It'll be on Main Street. There'll be artists inside, different merchants, and we'll have hopefully whiskey and wine tasting. And we'll be putting out advertising for that soon and how to purchase tickets.
Councilmember McCallum.
We've had a lot of community events going on lately, so I just wanted to publicly say thank you to all the staff and volunteers that help make those things happen. I know, like, for example, the Easter egg hunt, that's a lot of eggs that need to be stuffed with candy and all that stuff. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's helped make all of those things happen. I do not have any updates from the TDD board at this time. I, of course, have park updates, because they are, got to be one of the busiest departments we have. I want to remind everybody that if you are interested in being a lifeguard or, know somebody that might be interested, please reach out, and they're always looking for more lifeguards. And speaking of the outdoor water park, as a reminder, those season pass sales those season passes are on sale right now, and they are discounted up until tomorrow, I believe. Yeah, so if you're looking to get a discount and planning to buy one, now's your last chance. Opening date is scheduled for May 23rd. Then we have some events coming up. April 18th will be, which is this weekend, Kids Night Out, which include swimming, dinner, and a movie. April 26th, they're going to do a Taste of Belton, which will be an evening celebrating Belton flavors. They've got 15 vendors signed up for that. Hard to believe that we're already talking about this, but May 7th will be the kickoff for the farmers market. And so that's just around the corner. And also the Junior Craft Show is coming back again to High Blue this year on May 9th. And that's again vendors from 8 to 18. I believe that was really successful previously, and I look forward to seeing that creativity. And then just as a reminder, I think this is no secret, but Carry Nation Days will be May 29th to 30th. And just in case you missed it, there is an opportunity to submit an art piece that you might have for the drone show. So if you had something in mind for that drone show, you can submit that. There's a contest going on for that right now that will end this week. It'll end on Friday. Yeah, the drones will, yeah, so if there's something that you have, oh man, we should do this or that during that drone show, submit it but do it by Friday. And they'll look at, I don't know exactly how the details of that. I'll let Parks answer any questions on that, but they will have, that potentially taking place in the drone show. So featured here locally. That is everything I have for Parks.
Councilmember Richardson.
I went to the Olive Garden ribbon cutting. Great. Place is nice inside. Food's great. Everybody go try it out.
Councilmember Nelson.
I would do a plug for the Belton Educational Foundation Pirate Dash is this Friday at 7:30 at Wallace Park. So if you haven't signed up, please do. And then I have a request for a work session. It might even be sort of a mini work session. But street sweepers have been a hot topic. And my question is not whether we're replacing it, because we've had some talks about that, but I'm curious to know what the Mo DNR requirements are for a city our size, like what kind of street maintenance program we're on the hook for. If that could be a, like I said, mini work session before summer and festival type season kicks off, I would like to know more. So that's my request.
I have nothing.
I went to a arts training event and I learned a lot, as a matter of fact, and the arts community is emphatic about how much art brings to your town. So it was a very interesting, probably one of the best training things that I went to. Patty went there. I forgot even where it was. Where was it? It doesn't matter. Jefferson. Yeah, Columbia. It was in Columbia, but it was very good. I want to talk about the Sip and Stroll. It's May 2nd from 3 to 6, and I believe some of the artists that are coming are the ones that we feature at High Blue. Is that correct? Which is way cool, because they get a lot of traction in High Blue already. I also would like to say that the train is running May 2nd for the first time this season. So if you haven't had a chance to ride on the Belton Railroad, now's the time. The tickets are on sale. And I want to give a nod out to Kevin and to Nick for the awesome lights that I see every time I look out my kitchen window. Now that the park is more active at night, it's nice to know that those lights are on. So good work, guys.
The only thing I got is Olive Garden. It was 5 years in the making. Probably longer than that. Probably 10, 12 years, 15 years in the making. But it finally came to fruition and opened for business yesterday at 11 o'clock. But it was quite the hill to climb to get that to the city. But we did it, and hopefully everybody's happy with it. I'm sure not everybody will be, but hopefully everybody is. What? Yeah, I drove by today and it was packed, yeah. So that's all I got. The other thing I got, according to Charter Section 3.4, I open the floor to now open for nominations for Mayor Pro Tem.
Getting fired.
Go ahead.
I would like to nominate Councilmember Pryan.
And I would like to second that.
Hold on, let me write this down. Any other nominations? Floor is now closed for nominations. Congratulations, whether you want it or not, you got it.
I think so.
Whether you want it or not, you got it. City manager report.
Mr. Mayor and Council, there are a couple of things. One, you might have noticed if you've been outside in front of City Hall, the heart for the Parade of Hearts was delivered this week, so we have our heart. There's a bunch of hearts throughout the metro area this year. They've stepped it up by 150, I think, and so they're all over the place. But we are not left out. We have a nice, I think it's a very good-looking heart, too. I think the artist did a great job. And I just want to give you guys and the rest of the public a heads up that as part of our new agreement with GFL that we recently approved, they are going to be replacing carts and handling cart maintenance moving forward. And so I believe at the end of May, or the last part of May is when they're going to be starting that replacement. So they will be handling their own communication on how that's supposed to work. And so just give everybody a heads up to watch out for that. So the carts will be replaced and they'll bring in new carts and hopefully nobody will have issues with their carts anymore.
We start putting that out on our webpage too.
Yeah, that was going to be my request, is just, I know that they will be responsible for it. Obviously, that's part of the good thing here going on, as we heard from our Public Works Director. But I guess the more we can help them with the communication, I think is good.
Once, I can just tell you, once I start seeing the trash cans actually be delivered to the lot, because they are ordering it from another company, it's not something they have in stock. So once they show up in the lot and I know we have them, then we're gonna be able to let people know this is for sure exactly when it's gonna happen.
Perfect.
Makes sense, yeah. Anybody else? Oh. Go ahead.
You can still use the My Belton app, though, if you have issues, which are rare for GFL, but.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the My Belton app, I mean, as a single source, we can be the touch base for the beginning of that. We'll probably forward it to GFL, but that's where it can
That's what I
start.
meant, that, yeah, they would get.
Absolutely.
those now.
All right, anybody else? All right, item M, items for review and discussion. Item 1, Freedom Flex, rezoning preliminary development plan.
Yep, I left a handout at your seats for both of these projects on the work session. The first one is for Freedom Flex, which is located at the southwest corner of 58 and Prospect. This would be a rezoning application with a preliminary development plan and a special use permit. The reason for the rezoning, most of the property is zoned light industrial, but there is a 100-foot deep strip of land that was zoned commercial back when Semco was first approved back in 2004. This proposal would remove that and rezone the entire property in M1 just for easier development purposes. What's proposed is basically a group of flex buildings. The first easternmost building is designed more with storefronts to kind of have more of an office retail strip mall look on the front facing Prospect. They would have rear garages, so those setups are very popular specifically for contractor offices that may want a storefront but also have access in the rear for vehicles and equipment. And then the remaining buildings, there's 2 buildings with 48 units total, 50,000 square feet, that would be more of a mix. They can be flex spaces, contractor garages, hobby shops, potentially storage as well. Specific uses are limited by zoning and building fire codes. This is just the preliminary plan. There'll be a final development plan at a later date if this is approved. There are some architectural, conceptual renderings there in the lower left, and we're still working with the development team on kind of what the storefront will look like. But at least the storefront building and the facades that are visible from the road will have various masonry and architectural metal panels. The facades that are more interior will have various types of metal. This is will be presented to Planning Commission next Tuesday on April 21st. And there'll be a public hearing for the rezoning and preliminary development plan as well as the special use permit.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Is the whole plan, it's all one story?
Yes, these are all single-story buildings.
Okay. And can you talk a little bit about the difference between those two zones, those zoning?
Yeah, so the commercial zoning is more limited in terms of what can be allowed there. They also are allowed to have contractor offices. So the modification of the C2 zoning is primarily, we allow flex space buildings in C2 zonings, but only up to 10,000 square feet. That front building exceeds that by a little under 4,000 square feet. So that's the purpose of rezoning that to light industrial, is to allow that slightly larger building in that zoning district. But the overall development plan and the special use permit locks in the overall building design for that front building.
Go ahead.
Just so I can better understand M1 light industrial storefronts, like can you give just a general idea of what kind of businesses would be in that?
Yeah, so with the storefronts, those are typically going to be similar to some of Stacy Business Park on North Scott is a good example of that, where they have smaller storefronts for contractor offices. But within that space, they have a rear-loaded garage door that you can have kind of a separate warehouse space at the back of that. So it's set up for small contractor businesses that also don't just need it for storage, but also need it as a meeting place for customers as well as employees. It doesn't, also within that zoning district, it doesn't prohibit it from being used for other retail, office, or even restaurant services. Those are all possibility in there, just based on, it just takes, other improvements to it to meet building and fire codes for more intensive uses like that.
Okay, thanks for fleshing that out. That helps.
Go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Sandwich shops, lunch counters, taquerias, convenient little
All-
neighborhood grab
All
and
of
go.
those are possible
Okay.
within a space like that if it's designed to meet that.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Do we know if there are contractors interested already? I'm assuming they're not doing this just because they think there's business there. I'm assuming they're doing it because they know that there's interest in here.
Yeah, there's been several similar developments, specifically in kind of the Martin City area that have popped up like this, and they have filled up pretty quickly. And so this is kind of the first one of this type of product in Belton and really Cass County, so.
Can you give
they
that
see-
Martin City example?
There's a few on 135th Street and off of Wyandotte and 143rd Street.
Yeah, there's one north of that car dealership as you're going around on 143rd.
Okay.
And
there's
and there's
I'd love to
been
check it out myself, yeah.
Similar multiple other facilities approved in both Lee Summit and Blue Springs over the last couple of years as well. There's a lot of need for contractor spaces that have outgrown. They could be new spaces that people have outgrown their home, just need a more permanent location to grow their business. So they also can kind of serve as incubator spaces for small companies that are just starting out that then can grow and expand. And there's potential, depending on the design of these, that they could even, expand into adjacent spaces and slowly grow. Obviously, that's all up to kind of how the lease agreements are with the ownership group, if they want to allow that.
So I imagine that it's essentially an open field at the moment with some exception to that with those trees on the railroad side there. Do they think they're gonna be able to keep any of those as part of this?
They currently show that they're gonna try to maintain the buffering up along the railroad. They will be removing some of it up along along 58 Highway. However, they have a pretty robust landscape plan of putting landscaping all around the perimeter of the site.
That was part of my follow-up question. So, with that, I'm just thinking, so obviously this space, so having a building there is gonna add some more buffer to those that live over near that, between the railroad and their house. But in terms of privacy, I guess, just further thought process, what will that landscaping look like, or what, what will help those residents that would be looking across the street now, or in their backyards, really?
Yeah, so the frontage along Prospect, which there's actually probably another 100 feet from where the back of the road on Prospect is right now to where the right-of-way is. So these buildings will set back pretty far from where the current street is. There was significant right-of-way dedicated there for future improvements back when Semco was platted. The storefronts are likely gonna not be used at late into the evening or overnight hours, but that buffer will have typically a street tree every 40 feet, and then there will be continuous shrubs and hedges in between those. So it will be a solid landscape buffer.
Okay.
Anybody else? All right, item 2, Jim's Muffler, final plat special use permit.
And then on the back side of that sheet is the proposal for Jim's Muffler. This is so when Markey Parkway was completed out to North Scott, there was a 50-foot strip of land that was still owned by Quick Trip. Since the 50-foot strip isn't really wide enough for them to do anything with, they worked with Jim's Muffler worked with them on acquiring that. So the reason for this is to plat the property, to add that Quick Trip land to the Jim's Muffler site and allow Jim's Muffler to expand their parking lot on the south side of their building. That would be completed with some additional landscaping along the intersection there at North Scott and Markey Parkway. Preliminary and final development plan, preliminary plat and final development plan will be approved by Planning Commission or reviewed by Planning Commission next week. The agenda said special use permit, however, the property is actually zoned M1, so only a final development plan is required there. No special use permit is needed for this. So the final plat will come forward to council in May.
Anybody? All right, hearing none, I'd enter in a motion to enter executive session, discuss matters pertaining to legal actions according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.1 pertaining to the leasing, purchase, sale of real estate, according to Missouri State Statute 610.021.2 pertaining to negotiated contracts, according to Missouri Statute 610.021.12, and that the record be closed and the meeting adjourned from there.
Present.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Mayor Larkey?
Yes.
Councilmember Johnson?
Aye.
Pryan?
Aye.
Richardson?
Aye.
McCallum?
Aye.
Lawson?
Aye.
Thompson?
Aye.
Davidson?
Yes.
Motion passes.